As I take a look back, Mr. X was so whack. Food was great, I'm overweight. The trolley 102 will get you here. Now I head O'Hagan's for a beer. Ooh. And how the times keep a-changing. The street does not imitate our dear. Take it away.
Yay, yay! What's up, Jive Turkeys, and welcome to another episode of Story Time with Boots. I got a quick one for you here today. I am all by my lonesome. 3 good topics that we'll get into, so I'm going to try to keep it under 45 minutes. We'll see how that goes. First topic I want to get into is Pennsylvania Representative Brian Sims and his harassment of folks outside of Planned Parenthood in Philadelphia. Got 2 videos to play. Obviously have lots to say about that with commentary in between the videos. Don't want to end on that note, so what I'll do is I will want to spotlight some of the heroes of the recent school shootings out in Colorado, could have been out in Oregon. I'm starting to like what I'm seeing, unfortunately, that there is so many of these damn school shootings. It's absolutely insane and mind-boggling, and something has to be done. But what I do like from the media is that now we're starting to see more of these folks who are helping to stop these shootings, and we are not showcasing the actual shooters. We're not giving them a platform or giving them whatever notoriety that they're looking for a lot of times to pull off these crazy acts. So I want to highlight some of these heroes, and then thirdly, what I'll do is I will wrap up with what I'll call the Philly Sports Minute, where I'll just go give a rundown of local Philly sports, the Eagles, the Sixers, the Phillies. Sorry, Flyers. Haven't been following you too much. You guys have been pretty bad lately, but at least I'll get into those 3 topics, and I'll save the Philly Sports Minute for the end. So all of our listening around the world, in the U.S., if they're not interested in that, you can hop off. But anyway, let's kick it right off with Brian Sims. And as I mentioned, he was harassing women outside of the Planned Parenthood in Philadelphia, where he is a representative. Basically what he was doing on 2 occasions. The first occasion, he was harassing what he calls an older white woman who should be ashamed of herself for praying outside of the Planned Parenthood with her rosaries, praying for the babies that are not born yet. So he goes into a little rant, and I'm going to play like the first 3 minutes and 45 seconds so you could just hear the absolute hypocrisy, the bullying, just the unbelievable, despicable act of someone who isn't a representative, I'm ashamed to say, in Philadelphia. So I'll play that video, and then I'll also go back with about a minute-long video of him harassing teenage girls as well. And then we'll get into a little commentary. Sit tight. Here is the video. Let me pull it up for you just so everyone can hear it for themselves if they have not heard it already.
Hi, everyone. Representative Brian Sims here, and I'm once again out in front of Planned Parenthood of southeastern Pennsylvania. It's not only in my district, it's the most heavily protested Planned Parenthood, I believe, in the country. And today's protester, now, she is an old white lady who's going to try to avoid showing you her face. But the same laws, luckily, that protect her from being out here also protect me from showing you who she is. And so my hope is that you'll donate $100 for every extra hour that this woman is out here telling people what's right for their bodies. So I have a couple questions for you, ma'am. How many children have you clothed today? I'm sorry, I missed your answer. How many children have you clothed today? How about how many children have you put shoes on their feet today? Have you fed any children today, or have you just stood out in front of a Planned Parenthood shaming people for something that they have a constitutional right to do? Huh? If you're here about the children, you can pray at home for children. It's probably the same place that you could feed a child, but you're not. Instead, you're out here shaming people for something that they have a constitutional right to do. Who would have thought that an old white lady would be out in front of a Planned Parenthood telling people what's right for their bodies? Shame on you. Shame on you for hiding your face at the same time that you're shaming other people. Again, the same laws that protect me protect you, and that's okay. You're allowed to be out here. That doesn't mean that you have a moral right to be out here. Shame on you. What you're doing here is disgusting. This is wrong. You have no business being out here. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. Yep. Disgusting. So do me a favor, please. If you're watching this, Planned Parenthood of Southeastern Pennsylvania is one of the most heavily protested Planned Parenthoods in the country, and they deserve your support. These are the kind of attacks that we can expect on Planned Parenthoods in the current administration. Shame on you, ma'am, for standing out here thinking you know what's right for other people's bodies. There are women that come here from counties away, miles away, because people like you are standing out in front of their Planned Parenthood, shaming them. You must have something to say. You've had something to say to every single woman that's come in here, every single couple that's come in here. You've had something to say, something to hand them. And yet now that you're on camera, you have nothing to say and nothing to do about this? Shame on you. There's not a person coming here that needs your advice on what to do with their bodies. Not one. An old white lady telling people what's right to do with their bodies. Shame on you. Shame. Shame. Shame on you. There's no faith that tells you you are right and everybody else is wrong. There's no faith that tells you it's your job to stand out here and shame people for something that they have a right to do. This is disgusting. This is wrong. This is shameful. So please, if you're watching this, even if it's just $5 that you can give to Planned Parenthood of Southeastern Pennsylvania, this is the kind of stuff that they have to deal with. Cowards that won't show their face when others are looking, but they will shame every single woman, every single person of color, every single family that walks in here looking for help, looking for guidance. I'm so sorry, guys. Thank you so much for working in a place that respects and protects women. Thank you so much. Please give $5 to Planned Parenthood on behalf of this woman. If you're a white person like I am, we have a lot of catching up to do. We have a lot to apologize for, and I'm going to apologize. I'm going to start by apologizing for this woman. Shame on you. What you're doing here is disgusting. It's an attack on common sense. It's an attack on the Constitution. It's an attack on the rights of every single person coming here. And don't convince yourself that what you're doing isn't extremely racist. How dare you? This is grotesque.
So there you have it. That is about an 8-minute long video of him just berating this woman. And it gets even worse. It's pretty disgusting. So let me just say this. This really isn't about politics. This isn't even as much about the abortion issue. Whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, if you noticed in that video, you only heard commentary from him. He was right up in that woman's face, and you could find this video just simply by Googling it. And she was not commenting to him until he was getting closer, more aggressive, that you'll see later in the video where she just says, hey, stop recording me, back away from me. But she was just going about her business, praying, saying the rosary. So I just think it's absolutely mind-blowing, the hypocrisy, just how stupid this man could be. How he doesn't realize how big of a hypocrite he's being, how big of a bully he's being, when many times on his own Twitter, or he even has a video out there where he talks about bullying and how that sticks with somebody, for a lifetime. But it's just cracks me up. If you notice a couple things, he mentioned the word common sense. How is it common sense? So this woman is praying that people reconsider going in to have an abortion because she doesn't want these babies to be killed, is her view, is her faith. But this guy wants to pander or wants to believe that he's doing the right thing by certain minority groups, just like I saw on his Twitter. He feels that he's a champion for the gay, the transgender, the minority communities. And he feels that how he's a champion of these communities is by bullying on people he feels are weak, what he labels as old white woman. This old white woman, so he's discriminating, number one, women, which he claims to be a champion for. He obviously has some serious white guilt issues. If you heard in the video, he talks about we have a lot of catching up to do. He also said in that same video that what she's doing is extremely racist. I never knew that praying for the unborn had anything to do with race. I mean, the guy is just an absolute moron. We have to, this shit can't be tolerated. He has to be out of office. These are not the people that we can have representing us. Whether you're pro-life, whether you're pro-choice, It doesn't matter. Everyone has the right to peacefully protest. And this man feels it's his obligation as a representative to come and harass these people, to degrade them based on their faith, based on their race, the exact same things that he says he's a champion for, only if it's in the communities that he gives a crap about. Get the hell out of here. And just wait till you hear this next video. It's only a minute long of him berating teenage girls. Now, what I'll say to this is what you didn't hear in this video with this older white woman, as he likes to call her. He was offering people $100 to find her name and her address to harass her. Now, I don't know if that, I don't see how that can be legal. But luckily, I did see there was a lot of pro-life protesters. A lot of people took the higher ground with this guy. Because let me tell you what, if that was my mom, if that was my daughter he did that to, he would need some help. He would need some help somebody getting me off him. I mean, I was so mad when I saw it, I wanted to knock his teeth out right then and there. It didn't have to do with politics. It had to do with a 40-year-old man, or as he likes to boast, the next Division II middle linebacker football player, bullying an older woman. You're some type of tough guy? You're a 40-year-old man bullying an older woman? You disgrace. So anyway, here, let me play this next video of this guy with the harassing teenage girls. So bear with me here 1 second. It's only a minute or so long.
Hi, everyone. Representative Brian Sims here, and I am outside the Planned Parenthood at southeastern Pennsylvania. Oh, no, they're leaving now. What we've got here is a bunch of protesters, a bunch of pseudo-Christian protesters who've been out here shaming young girls for being here. And so here's the deal. I've got $100 to anybody who will identify any of these three.
So we're
I'm going to
actually
donate to Planned Parenthood.
Babies.
I'm going to donate to Planned Parenthood. So look, a bunch of white people standing out in front of a Planned Parenthood, shaming people. There's nothing Christian about what you're doing. Nothing Christian at all about what you're doing. Nothing Christian or loving or godly about what you're doing. So I've got $100 to anybody who will identify this. $100. See if you got some friends out here. $100. It'd be easier if you just give me your name and your address.
Rich Fulminstein.
Rich, where are you from?
Langsdale.
Rich, what makes you think that it's your job to tell women what's right for their bodies? And the truth is, I'm not really asking because I don't care. Shame on you. Guys, Planned Parenthood out here faces attacks daily from people like this, from pseudo-Christians saying that they are here to somehow protect their own version of Christianity. So do me a favor. If you've watched this, please consider giving $100 to Planned Parenthood. I'm going to do the same.
So there you have that. I don't know if you heard that video. The people who are out there peacefully protesting, just praying for the unborn, not harassing anybody walking in there. He decides it's his job, again, as a state representative, to go and harass these people peacefully protesting. Now, these are teenage girls, along with one older woman as well as an older man. And he specifically pulls them out, again with his white guilt, says, oh, look, a bunch of white people. So first of all, that's reverse racism. So you're saying that minorities, that white people are the only ones who are pro-life? That minorities can't be pro-life? Because he pretty much is basically saying that. Oh, go figure, a bunch of white people pro-life. Okay, so I think that's a slap in the face right there to any minority who happens to be pro-life. I didn't know that being pro-life or pro-choice was decided upon race. I thought that was just someone's belief, but who knows? I guess that's just me. But he also offered to put a bounty on these teenagers. Again, this infuriated me. I would love to say so. I would love to run into this guy. I live in the Philadelphia area. He thinks he's such a tough guy, harassing the weak and the, teenage girls. He talks so much about, sticking up for women. He's going to be a champion for women's rights. And this is how he treats women who are peacefully protesting just because he doesn't agree with them, offering $100, putting a bounty on them for their name and address, and then harassing that guy, getting his name and address. The other thing I don't understand is he keeps saying, What gives you the right to tell women what they can do with their bodies? These aren't people here who are telling women what they can do with their bodies. These are people praying and hoping that these people reconsider life. Such a serious topic as abortion, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, it is a very serious topic, and it's a sensitive one that I'm sure a lot of people, don't want to talk about. To give you an example, Alabama, the abortion laws that they just passed, whether it was rape or incest, I don't agree with that. Again, a very sensitive subject, but when that stuff happens early on, I don't agree that you can't let someone, that's a traumatic situation for somebody. So we just have to be reasonable people. We can't be like the state of Alabama. We can't be like this asshole who wants to try to pander to a certain group, or what he thinks he's doing is pandering to a certain group or champion, but really he's just a moron. But again, I'm going back to him talking about telling women what they can do with their bodies. How is praying for someone to not get an abortion telling them what they can do with their bodies? These people aren't outside protesting outside a plastic surgery clinic, saying, hey, women, we don't want you to go get breast implants, or don't go get those lips done. No, these are people who are trying to save a life. That is ultimately what the debate is when does life actually start? Does it start at conception? These people believe it does, and they're trying to save a life. And you're trying to make it seem like they're telling people what they can do with their body? They're not telling them anything, first of all. Okay? They're hoping. And I don't want to push my views because I said it's a sensitive subject. I just said how I felt about the Alabama law. But people have to be responsible. One of the biggest problems in society today is that people do not accept consequences for their actions. If you are going to have unprotected sex, guess what? There's a high chance that you could end up with a baby. So if you're not responsible and use contraceptive guess what? Planned Parenthood can provide that for free. So don't act like it's not out there. So if you're not in one of those situations, one of those horrible situations of incest or rape, people have to be responsible. Bottom line. That isn't talked about. All he gives a shit about is harassing these people, trying to pander to further his political career. Moral of the story, if you guys want to check out the whole videos, you could simply Google those videos. It's getting a little older now. I wanted to get in and talk about this a little sooner, right when it happened. I'm actually glad I didn't because I was really pissed when I saw those videos of just, like I said, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, this isn't as much about abortion as it is about this man being a bully, is what it really comes down to. Because I have friends on both sides. It doesn't matter whether you're liberal, whether you're conservative. People go both ways with their feelings on abortion. And I believe this is just becoming a firestorm that the media is using to ignite people and trigger people. You can't have assholes like this guy running around harassing people. And just flip the script. Let's say that, for instance, that woman was pro-choice and she was peacefully protesting. I would feel the exact same way because I don't look at that when I saw that video. I saw a 40-year-old man who boasts about being a middle linebacker for Division II football, bigger guy, picking on an older woman and trying to shame her based on her race, based on her age, and based on her religious beliefs. Okay? So if this was here's the question that Brian Sims, I would love to hear him answer. If this woman was not a Christian, let's say she was Muslim, if she was not an old white woman like he likes to call her, let's say she was, a minority, a person of color, I would love to see how that interaction would have went down. Please, let's see. If we're going to treat everybody equally, let's see how that interaction would have went down. Because I guarantee you, he would have not harassed that woman in that circumstance. So I don't want to talk about this guy any longer. I'll move on from him. Again, you guys can Google the videos if you haven't seen it already. But we got to get people like that out of office. And what we really need is these next heroes that we're about to talk about. So I mentioned school shootings. They are an unbelievable epidemic, just like the heroin epidemic here. And it's something that we have to do better at, and we have to figure out a way to stop these. We can get into the gun control debate, but to be honest, this isn't about the negative. This is about the positive of good people in the world today. Unlike the Brian Sims, these heroes who just step up, and these people need to be highlighted more. I think we're starting to do that right in the media, like I said earlier. I think we're slowly starting to not put the shooters at the forefront. Leave them out. They don't deserve to ever have their name spoken on social media, on television, any of that. These idiots who committing these mass murders, and if they're just doing it for 15 seconds of fame, not to realize if that's what they consider fame, pain that they are causing these families with these school shootings. Again, I do want to highlight these heroes here. In Colorado, the three heroes, and I'm going to read a little story on each of these heroes here. Colorado, we have Joshua Jones, Kendrick Castillo, and Brendan Biley. I hope I'm saying that right. And then just recently in Oregon, we have a former football player and teacher, coach. His name was Keenan Lowe. So we'll get into these stories here. And I'm going to start with the kids from Colorado here. So I have an article from CNN. I'll go right into it. So Joshua Jones and two classmates saved lives when they tackled one of two people behind the Colorado mass shooting that killed a young hero and wounded 8 others. Jones, 18, doesn't want to be called a hero, says Josh Lewis, a spokesman for his family. His friend Kendrick Castillo, who was fatally shot Tuesday as they gave others time to take cover or run. So I'm sure by now, hopefully, that everyone has seen Kendrick Castillo, brave student. I mean, I can't believe how brave these kids are, 17, 18 years old, that they're, stepping into action the way they did. This undated photo, which you guys can see on the CNN article if you Google it there, by the Joshua Jones family, shows Joshua Jones. The family of Jones put out a statement saying he was shot twice while disarming one of the attackers who allegedly walked into the STEM High School Highlands Ranch through an entrance without metal detectors and opened fire in 2 classrooms on Tuesday, May 7th, 2019. Jones pinned the shooter with his body until police arrived. According to Lewis, he suffered gunshot wounds to his left calf and hip. He considers himself really blessed and fortunate, Lewis says. Being a school shooting hero shouldn't be a part of teenage years. Jones is filled with guilt, regret, and sadness for Kendrick's family, Lewis says. The high school senior is cooperating with the Douglas County Sheriff's investigation into the shooting at STEM School Highlands Ranch, the latest in a series of mass shootings in the wider community, including Columbine High School and the Aurora Movie Theater. The 2 suspects, who I won't name, will appear in court next week to hear the charges against them. They are both students at the school and face murder and attempted murder charges, according to George Brauchler, the local district attorney. Jones is at home recovering, his family insisting that he use his crutches. He vows to ditch them for his May 20th graduation, according to Lewis. Jones always thought he wanted to become an EMT, but now he's certain, Lewis says. The teenager would go on to a Mormon mission before his EMT training. When the gunman pulled out a weapon in British literature class on Tuesday, Lewis said Jones, Kendrick, and another student, Brendan Biley, reacted almost immediately, Lewis says. They acted together. Kendrick lunged at the shooter. I know that because of what he did. Others are alive. Kendrick's father, John Castillo, said, I love him, and he is a hero, and he will always be. Biley said he moved the weapon away from the shooter. Jones pinned the suspect down. Biley tried to get Kendrick to talk, but he wasn't moving. Wow. So all I can say is unbelievable job from those young young high school students out in Colorado. Such bravery. Kendrick Castillo, what a brave young man, honestly. I mean, 18 years old, he gave up his life to help save another. So, round of applause to you guys. God bless you. We need more people like them out here in the world. So on to another hero out in Oregon. We have an article from WSFA News from Portland, Oregon. A high school coach and security guard in Oregon is being hailed as a hero for disarming an 18-year-old student who walked onto campus with a shotgun before any shots can be fired. Keenan Lowe, a former star wide receiver at the University of Oregon, described to Good Morning America what was one of the most important tackles of his life. I feel like I put in that room in that very moment for a reason, to protect those kids, Lowe said. Just before noon Friday, a Park Rose High School student, identified by police as 18-year-old will remain nameless, made his way to a classroom with a loaded shotgun. Witnesses say Lowe, who acts as security guard and coach at the school, sprang into action, forcing the gun-wielding student to the ground and wrestling away his weapon. I end up getting the gun from him, getting the gun with my right hand and holding him off with my left hand and calling for a teacher to come grab the gun from me. In the end, no shots were fired. Lowe says his actions allowed students to flee and police to arrive quickly and take control of the situation. He really cares about us, so I'm not surprised, student Caden Perry said. He's a great guy and always makes us do our best, so I believe he was doing what he had to do. In several tweets following the incidents, Lowe vowed to be a part of the solution to school gun violence. He is now in custody and facing multiple charges, including possession of a firearm, public building, and reckless endangerment. Police have yet to establish a motive. What a hero. You know, this, again, such a young man. He's fresh out of the University of Oregon. He's probably no more than 22, 23 years old. Keenan Lowe, and springs into action to save these kids. What a great job. The shooter wasn't even able to get a shot off. So just a fantastic job. We need more people like Mr. Lowe protecting schools and helping others. So everybody, here are your heroes of the day, the hero spotlight. We have Joshua Jones, Kendrick Castillo, Brendan Biley, and Keenan Lowe. There you go. All right, so now I'm going to get into Philly Sports Minute. So everybody who isn't interested in Philly sports can, hop off. Hopefully you've enjoyed everything so far. I want to start off with the Eagles, and some of the pressing issues right now with the Philadelphia Eagles are Carson Wentz negotiating his contract, same things with moral support leader Malcolm Jenkins, and then I also wanted to give my perspective on the season outlook. So I'll start with Carson Wentz, and I've been kind of going a little back and forth about this because I was flip-flopping on what they should do with Nick Foles, even though Nick Foles was owed a huge chunk of money, over $20 million or right around $20 million if the Eagles had tried to keep him. The reason I thought that is mainly because of Wentz's injuries. And you just look at his play from last year. Obviously, it wasn't the same as his MVP sophomore season. His rookie season, he showed a lot of promise. He lived up to that promise, and then catastrophe struck when he got hit with that big ACL, MCL injury of his knee. When he came back this year, he never seemed to have the same mobility. He didn't seem to be able to get on track passing the ball. He was still he's still a great player. Didn't have the athleticism that we saw that I think made him elite in that MVP sophomore season. Also was the downfall of RG3, who came out guns a-blazing. Then obviously I think he had an ACL, MCL injury, one or the other, that really just derailed his career. Here's the other issue. Carson Wentz is coming off a serious back injury to pile on to that knee injury. We're getting whispers. We're not 100% sure of how he is going to be to start the season, if he's fully recovered, if he's fully healed. So we're essentially taking a chance. We have him under contract, I believe, for another year, maybe two. I think it's another year. But they're looking to renegotiate him for $30 million. I go back and forth on it for a couple reasons. I think we have a short window with some of the players looking at the roster as it stands now, some of our older veterans on the O-line, at wide receiver, and the O-line is a big one. We have very young safeties. So the collective team to which I think we can make it work, as this team stands now, looks like we have a pretty short window. With that being said, Carson Wentz, we need some other talent. We need to fill some other spots. Our DNs, look not so great. Some people are more optimistic than I am. But Carson Wentz, if we get him through this rookie year, or through this rookie contract this season, and he doesn't pan out for whatever reason, and I think that main reason is going to be his injuries are going to pile up and take a toll. That is just the way it is shaping out right now. I want Carson Wentz to have an unbelievable season and to completely bounce back. I have to be a realist, though. From what I'm seeing through the first 3 years of Carson Wentz being here, it isn't getting better on the injury front. It's only getting worse. So how can I really expect him to improve from his year 3 season, which by Carson Wentz standards, a lot of people's opinion who watch every game, was really, I guess you could kind of label it as mediocre. He had issues converting on third downs. He had issues with a lot of passes. He doesn't seem to throw a good deep ball, which concerns me. Hopefully Deshaun Jackson can help with that. Foles really didn't have an issue with that. So I think, bottom line is, why don't we just lock him up now? Or not lock him up. Let him play it out, see how he makes it out of the season. Because here's the thing, why give him, $60, $70 million guaranteed, and then he blows out his knee again, or he blows out his back, or he regresses once again after this season? A lot of Eagles fans are really hopeful, and I hope he proves me wrong and just blows it out of the water. But all I'm saying is, if we let him play it out, and he just has an unbelievable season, then that's great. That's the best case scenario. That's what we want as Eagles fans, is for him to blow it out of the water and bounce back from those injuries like we hoped he would. And then I get it. He's going to be owed a lot of money after that. So what? He deserves it at that point, right? Let's pay him. Now we're fully confident that we have our guy. Let's pay him. You're going to pay him either way. So whether it's $30 million a year or $35 million, you get him for $30 million a year on a shorter contract, or maybe you give him an extra year of $35 million. Who cares? I think with this short window, I think the odds tell us to not give him the money too soon. Just my opinion. Now, Malcolm Jenkins, on the other hand, this guy has been the emotional leader of the defense. He has been one of the best safeties in the league, one of the most underrated players, the heart and soul of the defense in the locker room. Anyone in Philadelphia knows. We're willing to give guys like Nelson Aguilar, Deshaun Jackson, $10, $11 million a year. We're going to give Brandon Graham, a guy who had 4 sacks, $13 million a year. The heart and soul of our defense, and we're going to have any type of hesitation of, giving this guy money after we just lost inspirational leader in the locker room, Chris Long. What are you doing? Give him some money. This guy is one of the main reasons we won the Super Bowl, and he's still playing at a peak level. 31 years old. Maybe he wants a couple more years. Give it to him. He deserves it. He deserves it. Don't mess with Malcolm Jenkins. Get him out there. Get him back with the team so he can help lead these young cornerbacks. Now, for the season outlook, I'm not as optimistic as most people. A lot of people around the Philadelphia area think this is one of the better teams on paper, which we all know paper doesn't mean shit. I think we have some issues in the secondary, particular cornerback, obviously. I think we have some real glaring issues with not being able to put together a pass rush on D-end. And I say that simply by looking at the sack numbers of who are going to be our starting D-ends in Derek Barnett and Brandon Graham. A guy we just paid $13 million had 4 sacks. A guy we let go in Martellus Bennett, what did Bennett have? Close to 10 or 12, something in that area? I know he had more than double Graham. So there you go with that pay scale thing. We're willing to pay him $13 million, but the heart and soul of our team, defense, we're not willing to pay. So the pass rush worries me, the secondary worries me, and when you can't get a pass rush and you're going to give those wide receivers and quarterbacks more time on a weaker cornerback, that could be trouble. And the other issue is if Wentz does not bounce back to form like everybody is hoping he can, then it's going to be issues. And I think the Eagles, being willing to pay all these wide receivers the money, they are trying to surround Wentz with as many tools as possible so they can, in a sense, kind of cover their tracks because they had to let Foles go, and they want to put him in a position to be successful, which I don't blame them. I want Wentz to be successful. I want the offense to be successful. I might not agree with some of the amounts of money they paid the wide receivers and how that shaped out. I guess we'll all see how it plays out. Who knows? I like the additions at running back. Hopefully that helps. Our O-line is older, but we did draft a tackle in the first round. So I'm sure if he steps in, we can get him some playing time. But the other issue is our all-pro guard, Brandon Brooks, coming back from a major injury. So we got to be hopeful that he can bounce back in Brandon Brooks' form, because I believe he's, top 2 or 3 guards in the league for sure. So my season outlook, final thoughts. I'm hoping the Eagles go 10-6. I think they'll make the playoffs. I think they'll win the East. But I don't know how far they go in the playoffs. That'll all kind of fall on the shoulders of Wentz and in my opinion, how those defensive ends and cornerbacks play. So let's move on to the Sixers, who just had a tough loss in the playoffs to the Toronto Raptors. Kawhi Leonard played absolutely out of his mind. That guy's a savage. But I want to talk about a few of the Sixers' big stars. So I'll start with Ben Simmons. And on an earlier podcast with Tornado Tongue, I said that I thought Ben Simmons would never be elite. And why I think that is for exactly what we saw when it comes down to the playoffs, when it comes to the good teams. The guy is exposed, and he's exposed in a bad way. He doesn't take a jump shot. So everyone please stop with the comparisons to Magic Johnson. First of all, he's not Magic Johnson. He did not win an NBA championship in his rookie season. It wasn't that Magic, you could say Magic wasn't the best shooter, but the guy took shots. Ben Simmons does not take a jump shot. And if you people understand what that means, these teams play to him not taking a jump shot, and they close the lanes on him, and they almost neutralize the guy. He also has some issues finishing around the basket. He has some issues with turnovers, long outlet passes where he can ruin momentum for the team. I have some real concerns with Ben Simmons when it comes to what this process is supposed to be about, which is winning championships, because when you get deep in the playoffs, he doesn't seem like the guy who is going to, number one, step up to take a shot. He's going to be a dish-off guy, and you need that in a number one pick. You need that in an elite player. He doesn't seem like he has that it factor. He doesn't have the Jordan, the Kobe, the LeBron, any of those, that want those big pressure moments, that want to take that shot. The other person, Joel Embiid, definitely disappointed with his play in that series. He had a couple good games, obviously, but when it came down to it in crunch time, and you saw that video of Joel crying after the game and his girlfriend, Joel was crying because he was obviously upset. But in my opinion, the main reason Joel was crying was because he knew he could have did better, and he knew he could have gave more to help that team win the game. The Sixers should have won that series, should have won that game. Despite Kawhi playing so well, they had the more talented players. Even with some of their weaknesses, they still were the better team, in my opinion. And the only one that really came out guns a-blazing with the heart of a champion was Jimmy Butler. Time and time again, he wanted to take the last shot. He was there when they needed a big bucket. It wasn't Joel. Joel was missing shots down the stretch. Joel was kind of crumbling. Same, Ben was kind of just hiding around the background. Toby wasn't very much of a factor. That was a little disappointing in the series. The same with JJ. You know, they were neutralizing those. Although Toby did have a good last game, Ben's last game wasn't too bad. For the Sixers to get better, or for the Sixers to have a shot at the championship, my opinion is Jimmy leaves. You're going to be left with Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid. Hopefully they re-sign Toby. I don't know if they'll get JJ. But they need to hope to get a free agent, which I don't know if they will. If that is the case, if they're stuck with that scenario, I think they have to try to get value for Ben Simmons. What could be value for Ben Simmons? Maybe like a Kemba Walker, a couple-player deal. Who knows? But they need a true point guard. They need somebody who can shoot the ball. They need somebody who isn't scared to shoot when it comes down to crunch time. I don't hate Ben Simmons. He's a tremendous talent. He's very athletic. I just don't see him improving. That's what the frustrating part is. I didn't see any improvement from last year to this year. I see a guy who's still unwilling to even take a shot. Everyone's like, well, he's working on his shot. Well, he's still not taking one. So what the hell does it matter if he's working on it? It doesn't matter if he takes 1,000,000 shots in practice. You got to be able to take them in the game. So we'll see what happens with the Sixers there. Hopefully they're able to get somebody. Hopefully they actually draft somebody who's fucking going to be on the court this year. It's pathetic. And this front office, they don't get enough criticism for their shitty drafts. You know, they want to get high praise for Joel Embiid, who fell in their lap. He was the only person they could take. Ben Simmons was the number 1 pick. Come on, you don't get no credit for that shit. You get credit for finding a good 10th pick, 15th pick. Not for losing every year so you can get the top pick. And then when you do, you draft someone like Markelle Fultz. Not only that, you trade up to get him. When you could have had Jason Tatum. When you could have had De'Aaron Fox, who I was looking for. Some heat needs to be put on this front office in their scouting, because it absolutely blows. All right, so we'll round out with the Phils here, who are doing okay. You know, with the talent they have on the team, I thought they could be doing better. They just blew another game. Today is Tuesday the 21st, so they lost 3-2 to the Cubs. They took the lead. Same old story. They're able to get the lead and then lose it late in the late innings. Andrew McCutchen playing well. You know, what else can you ask for this guy? He's been a nice find for us, hitting .244. Segura's been outstanding, who I also highlighted as would be our biggest acquisition. Quietly, or not quietly from us, but the guy just doesn't get much national recognition, batting .318, our best hitter on the team. While Bryce Harper, the big money man, the face of MLB, a lot of people say, batting an abysmal .224. He does have an okay on-base percentage that's starting to slip, decent slugging, but that's not somebody who you pay $300 million, over $300 million, the performance you expect, a .224 batting average. Hopefully, the Phillies need pitching. The hitting scares me a little bit, but I think that'll start to come around. But we definitely need relief pitching. We're blowing these late-game leads. We need some starting pitching. So bottom line, go out there, make the deals, get some pitching in here. We'll have a nice squad. We can make a little playoff run. Anyway, that's my show for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the talks about Representative Brian Sims, about the heroes of the day, and the Philly Sports Minutes. Keep an eye out for social media, which is Storytime with Boots, and Twitter is Storytime W Boots. Let me know what you thought of the episode. Let me know if you have any questions, want to see any links, and I will catch you next time.
As I take a look back, Mr. X was so whack. Food was great, I'm overweight. The trolley 102 will get you here. Now I head on Higgins for a beer. Ooh, and how the times keep a changing. The street does not